Wake your ass up
or take a damn nap.
And we're the three best friends that anybody could have.
It's time.
Sean, you were twerking. That's going to happen.
Murph, don't be a dick all your life.
It's one of the more fun podcasts I've ever done.
Hey, I tell you what, if you're not talking about sports in the man cave, I better not say you got a bed.
That's it.
Special episode here on Stories Inside the Man Cave. We are remembering and honoring the building that was the home of the Texas basketball teams here in Austin, the University of Texas, that is, and a special iconic building to the great city of Austin here in Texas. And why would we honor a building like that? Well, first and foremost, it has been a building for the better part of 4 decades, which has been something when, even if you don't live in Austin, Texas, if you're driving on I-35, you notice it. If you're coming up from the south on Interstate 35, as you pass downtown Austin, you look to your left, or you could see it way ahead if you're traveling northbound on I-35. On your left, iconic all-concrete building. It deemed the nickname by people like me, that being Austin OGs, the Super Drum. And Texas Longhorn alums from all generations called it the Super Drum because it did resemble, or does currently resemble, a large drum. But it has been the home of all of the special events, the big ones, that is, concerts, Harlem Globetrotters, circuses, the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey circuses, WWF before it became WWE, and, of course, WWE events and some significant names. In fact, the largest crowd to see a concert was John Denver, the late John Denver, well over 17,000 in attendance for that. And it's been the home or hosted NCAA first and second round NCAA tournament games on the men's side. It has been the host of, I believe, a regional on the men's basketball tournament of March Madness. It's hosted a women's Final Four. It has also hosted several times the first and second rounds on the women's side and regional tournaments. So it has seen a tremendous amount of history. And it's been a part of a lot of people who just call Austin home, or the Austin Central Texas area. They have it's been a part of everyone's lives for the better part of 45 years. It opened in 1977. Texas called Gregory Gym, a very intimate, old-school gymnasium, much like Duke's Cameron Indoor Stadium. It was small, but intimate, loud, true college basketball atmosphere. Texas outgrew that and really needed an event center such as the Erwin Center, and it served its time, and it has now expired, if you will. And it's bittersweet, but I think we can all agree that a newer, better basketball environment is ahead in the very near future, next basketball season for the Longhorns and the Texas women's basketball program at the Moody Center, which is just north of the current Erwin Center. And it's much lower to the ground, very modern. It will be state-of-the-art. It is state-of-the-art. And the first concert is on the, I think Leon Bridges will be the first concert for the new Moody Center. Of course, we'll have a part of a Stories Inside the Man Cave production story on who or what will be the first events. Not being a concert, it involves bull riding. And we have a very familiar face tied to that. That's all in a separate story, which will be published and dropped very soon. But I would love to hear from you. And if you would, go ahead and follow the Man Cave Facebook page, Stories Inside the Man Cave Facebook page, and also the YouTube page, Instagram, and on Twitter. I want to hear your favorite Erwin Center moments. It could be hilarious. It could be comical. And what you remember going to the Erwin Center for on a regular basis. Basketball. It's dominated those memories because so many home games per year on the men's and women's side. Historical games and it's just amazing when you think about what took place inside of the Erwin Center. I know a lot of arenas have their own identity. And by the way, Jim Saxton State Farm Insurance Agency is the sponsor of this episode. Give him a shout. Visit his website, saxtoninsurance.com, to fulfill all of your insurance needs, auto, home, whatnot. He'll take care of you. But I want to take you back to 1981. Arkansas was coached by the late Eddie Sutton, the Hall of Famer. And they played Louisville, and NCAA first and second round game here in Austin. And there were a lot of Texas fans there rooting against Arkansas because if you recall, Arkansas and Texas were big rivals in the old SWC, some classic games back then with Abe Lemons, Eddie Sutton. It was just an amazing time for college basketball. It was starting to reach its peak, and Austin, Texas was a significant part of that. And, well, there was a historic, monumental shot made by an Arkansas Razorback. And I back when I was with KView, my last job during my sportscasting career, the last time Texas hosted at first and second round games on the men's side. Well, I did a story on one of the memorable moments, and it involved a former Arkansas Razorback. And this was that story from one of those greatest Erwin Center moments.
It was a round two showdown between Denny Crum's defending national champion Louisville Cardinals and Eddie Sutton's Arkansas Razorbacks. Some recall it like it was yesterday, like veteran broadcaster Tim Brando.
And I'm sitting literally about right here, second row. The announcers are right in front of me.
And others were simply too young to remember.
81, geez, I would have been 10 years old maybe. I've got a good memory. I don't know if I've got that good a memory.
Allow me to refresh your minds. The Hogs trailed 73-72 with 5 seconds remaining. Then this happened. A buzzer beater by Arkansas's U.S. Reed.
You knew it was going in, though, when you shot it, didn't you?
I knew I had a good release on the ball and it felt good, but I didn't really know it was going in.
You were looking at the very spot in which U.S. Reed hit that incredible game-winning shot against Louisville 32 years ago. Now, over there is where Bill Little, the events coordinator for this event, was standing by to grab Denny Crum, the Louisville head coach. Instead, he had to race across to the Arkansas bench to grab Eddie Sutton, who was on the bottom of the dog pile.
And the Longhorn fans who were in the building weren't sure they wanted Arkansas to win at all. But the way the game ended in the dramatic fashion it did was such a tribute to the NCAA basketball experience.
Arkansas beat Louisville, the defending national champs, just like that. And it happened in this building, and I'll never forget it.
It makes March Madness, the big dance, very, very special, the best sporting event in the world.
And just maybe another U.S. Reed Madness moment will occur in Austin again this weekend.
Incredible. And Arkansas fans, they have really strong ties still between Texas and UT. Arkansas fans, devoted ones. That is a moment that true Arkansas fans, young or old, still recall. It's much like the James Street pass to Randy Peschel in the 1969 Texas-Arkansas game. A true Texas Longhorn fans, especially football, know about that in Texas football history. That's the same for Arkansas basketball history. That was just one of the many moments. What we remember, and I'll recall a few. Let's go back not that far, but let's check out the BMW. Tom Penders took over for Bob Weltlich in 1988 for Bob Weltlich and after the 87-88 season. Immediately turned the Texas basketball program. Football was down. Texas fans were looking for something to support and get excited about because football was really down. Baseball was still at a crescendo, coming off of a College World Series appearance, almost winning it, finishing third. I think they were eliminated by Stanford in 87. But Tom Penders, speaking of, had a was a tremendous baseball talent, but a great basketball coach. Arrived to Texas from Rhode Island, University of Rhode Island, and he had a nickname, Tournament Tom. Well, he inherited a group of players, Lance Blanks, Joey Wright, and Travis Mays, all guards, and they were nicknamed the BMW. And Texas, if I stand corrected, had not been to the NCAA tournament since, I think, in 10 years, 1978, I think, something like that. It had been a decade. Tom Penders took over for Bob Wellick. Bob Wellick did not have much success at all, never went to the NCAA tournament with Texas. Tom Penders, the Running Horns, took Texas immediately to the NCAA tournament. The BMW, Loxley Colley and that group, they had Guillermo Panama Myers, the nickname. Beat Georgia Tech, Bobby Crimmins in the first round of the NCAA tournament, bowed out to Missouri. The next year, that's when Strollin Nolan occurred. Arkansas head coach then, had tremendous teams, led them to the Final Four in that 89-90 season, won the national title in 94. Well, Texas and Arkansas became heated rivals on the basketball court, but Arkansas was dominating Texas. Well, in February of 1990, I believe, I think it was, Arkansas, Texas was finally beating them, and Nolan Richardson didn't like the way the officiating was going, and there was a foul called, and they called intentional. So that put Lance Blanks to the free throw line, and Nolan Richardson walks off the court, was not given a technical foul. That was his way of disputing the officiating. Well, Lance Blanks, I believe, missed both of the free throws. Lee Mayberry comes up with the ball for Arkansas, hit the buzzer beater to tie the game, sent it to overtime. Nolan Richardson came back on the court at the Erwin Center. Arkansas beat Texas in overtime. Awful for Texas fans. But the two met again in the Southwest Conference tournament, then met again in the Elite Eight. Texas played them close. Arkansas won in Dallas at the older Union Arena, which was called Arkansas's arena in Fayetteville was called Barnhill Arena, but the Arkansas fans called it Barnhill South. Dominant, just like Tech fans did earlier this year, a few weeks ago at the Erwin Center. And, so Strollin Nolan at the Erwin Center was a big one. And as we want to keep talking about some of the finer moments, 1996, Dean Smith, one of his great North Carolina teams. Tom Penders had a great team. 96, Texas upset North Carolina in the Erwin Center. I was in college. I remember my then girlfriend at the time from Stephen F. Austin. We came to town, watched Texas upset North Carolina, and it was a full house. I mean, a full house. The A&M games. Tom Penders made it cool for basketball. They would sell out for A&M, and if Texas was beating them, you heard the whole arena, the entire arena yelling, "Poor Aggies." It was fun. It was a lot of fun. I was an intern at KXAN. Rick Majerus, the legendary late basketball coach at the University of Utah, had some great teams at Utah. Texas upset them, I believe, in double, triple overtime. Albert Burdett, a local star, I believe he hit the game winner, or I can't remember who it was, but as soon as they won in triple overtime, he jumped up on top of the tables on courtside celebrating. It was a big moment. 2007, full house, big Monday game. I think AC Law was a point guard at Texas A&M, and Texas beat them. And it was a big moment for Texas fans. It was just absolutely stunning. There were some great moments for the Erwin Center, but I think some of the bigger moments, you see, the Erwin Center was the host of the U.I.L. girls and boys high school state basketball tournaments. It was just a tradition through and through. Everybody went to the Erwin Center, coaches from across the state, it was cost efficient. And that was one of the reasons why it left in recent history, not too long ago, to go to the Alamo Dome, because Austin outpriced the U.I.L. state tournaments for the boys and girls. Could not find affordable housing for hotels, for everyone from all those communities across the great state of Texas. So they moved it to the Alamo Dome, and it hasn't been the same. I'm just going to be honest with you. No offense to San Antonio, but a lot of the memories were high school basketball coaches came in for both tournaments every year. Full house. My favorite state tournaments, which didn't end well, were, because I'm an Anderson High School guy, Chris Clack, William Stringfellow, Russell Freeman, Marty Hardy, those great teams, and I'm sorry if I left off some names. They went to the 4A state championship back-to-back years for Anderson. Both times lost by a point, once by a buzzer beater. Actually, both there at the end. It was heartbreaking, but full house for those games. Even the late B.J. Wolf, former head coach of Travis High School here in Austin, he took a team in, I want to say, 89 to the state Final Four. And it was just a great deal for the city of Austin. Austin was different then. But to give you an idea what the U.I.L. state tournament was like, there's another iconic bar still there. I hope it never closes. It's around the corner from the Erwin Center, and it's all right there where the Dell Seton Hospital is, which the Erwin Center will become a part of. But this is one of those favorite stories that I did back in my media days about the U.I.L. state basketball tournaments at the Erwin Center, and this is what that was all about.
It's more than just a 3-day weekend of teams playing for a state championship. It's definitely a special time in life for each of these young men and their coaches, but if you look closely at who is in attendance, many don't have a rooting interest, including high school basketball coaches from across the Lone Star State. Now, all these high school basketball coaches, they do not sit inside the drum and watch every single state tournament game. Okay, I lied. They watch most of them. But in between these games and sessions, they make the short walk down these stairs and across the way to one of Austin's iconic buildings, Scholz's.
It's actually one of our busiest weeks of the year. We always look forward to it. We see the same faces year after year.
You meet coaches from all across the country, all across the state of Texas. So it's a great place to see college coaches. If you got players that you think can possibly play at the next level, it's a good chance to, talk to them as well.
Now, the patio is where the tradition continues, but rain causes Plan B to go into effect. They just move it indoors.
I've been coming to Scholz's for a long time, just with my dad being a coach at Manor High School. And so the camaraderie that goes on here at Scholz's is unbelievable. There's so much networking that goes on. You end up seeing coaches that you hadn't seen but once a year. And, it's a great time.
Those good times continue in between state tournament sessions.
Amazing. And that wasn't that long ago, but that's how things have changed since the Erwin Center opened in 1977. Not too recent past. We're talking within the past decade. The U.I.L. state basketball tournaments left the Erwin Center for the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, and that was a great atmosphere, great networking for the coaches. A lot of the coaching fraternities and basketball are friends of mine. And when I was able to come back to Austin, I would go down during the state tournament. If we had a local team, obviously partake in that, fulfill my obligation there, and then go visit with my coaching buddies and basketball coaching buddies who were there at Scholz's, and that was such a great time. Jody Conrad, the former Texas women's basketball coach, took that program to the elite level. They won the 1986 national championship. That banner, you always looked at that banner, undefeated, I believe 34-0. And I believe the next year they hosted, the Erwin Center hosted the women's Final Four, but Texas didn't make it that year. And you just look back at all of the events. It was just a special, special venue. And I want to hear from you again. Just shoot me a tweet at Stories Man Cave on Twitter. Jump on the Instagram page, send me a DM, and I would love to share these responses as we are about to. The women's basketball team for Texas will probably host a couple of NCAA first and second round games at the Erwin Center, and I think that's it. And I don't know of the exact date that the Erwin Center will be demolished, but it's very soon. And I saw a comment that can't remember where I read this. Said that we hope that it's not like the city of Houston, like the Astrodome, that it's still standing there. But I think that chance of that happening is 1% or less, because the Del Seton Hospital on the UT campus is going to that's going to be a part of that. The Erwin Center land, that space will be added on after it's demolished to the Del Seton Hospital there. So remembering the Erwin Center is something special. Can't believe that era's come to an end, but hey, one thing is constant, and that is change. Want to hear your Erwin Center memories? Shoot me a tweet. Shoot me a message on Instagram. Until the next episodes that we are working on, trying to produce, I'll have a couple of those. Be sure to watch the latest episodes that I have. Obviously, Idle Conversations with Will Smith, a lawyer here in Austin, a devoted Texas Longhorn fan. He's a UT alum. He talks about his Erwin Center memories. Check that out. You can check those out on the Facebook page, all the episodes. And I had the longest episode of Stories Inside the Man Cave with the Pardon Me Alex podcast girls. They started a podcast strictly dedicated to Stephen F. Austin, Lumberjack and Lady Jack athletics. Created that 4 years later, going strong. Yes, I'm an SFA alum, but some interesting stories there as that mid-major college basketball power. Stephen F. Austin has provided some special moments for those two ladies to cover and get close to that program. And we had a good time with that one. So for the OG Man Cave Boys, that being Hardball Hards, Big Mike, and Coach Mo, I'm Clinch. We're out.
You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up.